Yeah, we are live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chennai Tech Radar. This is the second session. We are doing it on AWS Reinvent. Our take. Thank you for very encouraging views and a lot of comments from people. In the last week one description, a lot of views and a lot of comments that made it, that encouraged us to do a one more series. I think we'll continue with this series further. My name is Rafiq Sayed, part of this group. Last time also we did this session. Over to Naren.
Hey, thanks, Rafiq. Thanks everyone who is joining in live, and for the people who will be watching it later. My name is Naren Krish. You can reach me in my social network with @Naren Krish with double H. This is our channel Bye Bye Bytes. If you are new, don't miss to subscribe to the channel. We have lots of tech topics, mostly targeting Kubernetes, cloud, and anything related to tech. So we did an first week of AWS Reinvent week one summary. It had a very good reception from everyone. Thanks for everyone for the support. And we decided to do a week two. So of course, if you guys missed the week one, we'll be providing the link of the week one in below this video. You can go through it. So week two will also be a total. We'll try to summarize everything that happened in this week, and that way we'll be able to take up. Thanks everyone for joining. So I'll hand it over to Rajesh for his intro.
Yeah. Hi everyone. As you have seen, you must have seen last week. So this is Rajesh, who is a cloud and DevOps aficionado, and happy to start this session. And I hand it over to you, Shiva.
Hey everyone, this is Shiva here. You would have seen me last week. As usual, I'm starting excited, really about to talk the week 2 of AWS Reinvent. A couple of stories on Prime Video failures and also how Blue Jeans evolved is very interesting. Looking forward to interact on that.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ravi Shankar. Welcome everyone. So today we'll see about the week 2 takeaways, and don't miss the new launches. I am Audit Manager and then Reachability Test. Don't miss it. Thank you.
Naren, we are good to start with keynotes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was in mute. Sorry about that. Yeah, we are good to start with the keynotes. Thanks everyone for your introduction. So we are moving to this is the week 2 keynotes. So let's start over that.
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, in the earlier week, we had 5 keynotes planned for this Reinvent 2020. And as part of that, the week 2 kickstarted with the machine learning keynotes, which was taken by Swami Subramanian. It was a very comprehensive session, I would say, because there were lots of announcements and lots of improvements to whatever the AWS and machine learning services that are already in place. So I just we just picked a few so that it would cover the entire keynote session. So starting with the first one, they introduced some faster distributed training on SageMaker. This is purely for data parallelism and model parallelism. It's nothing but it relates to this deep learning training models where the work is really very extensive and sometimes the systems may get very slower. So they have improved the performance of that. Now we can see a faster distributed training on SageMaker. And the second is we always know, right, in keynote that some partner will come in and they will explain how AWS helped them to achieve their goals. So NFL, that is National Football League from USA, they came in and they shared their working experience with like machine learning, like how it helped them in populating the next gen stats, and how it helped them in injury reduction plan. And actually it was really quite comprehensive session. Like they covered how even it helps them to design helmets so that there is an avoid of having this injury risks for the players whoever they are on the field. So next, this is one of the huge one which already Andy announced last week. So that is SageMaker Data Wrangler. So it is the fastest way where they can prepare data for machine learning. Obviously, we know, right, like machine learning, it is all dependent upon the training data, whichever it has, and it builds different modules on that. And it was one of the key things that machine learning keynotes focused. And there are other couple of services like Clarify and Deep Profiling, which is also extensively built for SageMaker purposes, so that it makes easy for like whoever is working on the SageMaker, so that they don't want to put an extra effort in maintaining them, or like fixing them or something like that. And there are SageMaker pipelines, which is the one that Andy introduced again in the last week's keynotes. And this is the first purpose built, like easy to use CI/CD flow for the machine learning purpose, which AWS has been working for long, and which was introduced in by Andy last week. And we have this edge manager, which is helpful in managing and monitoring the machine learning models efficiently across like fleets of smart devices, because we constantly keep getting data from each look and corner of the services. So these are the first set of like announcements which Swami made in the machine learning keynote.
Yeah, talking about something called as SageMaker feature store. It's like a feature store and an app store kind of thing that they have introduced, exactly, where different kinds of repositories developed by developers are available for just to get into a quick start mode, and also to do a deep research, right? So that excites all of us when somebody talks about SageMaker. How do we get started is one question we have, and feature store may be of help to others who are starting, right? Definitely, that is one thing. AWS SageMaker Clarify is the biggest thing, I believe, that happened this week. And one of the things is, while we talk about machine learning, there are often these comments about machine and the biasness, because not because that we bias the systems, it's because of the number of incidents that machine learning would have seen in a particular pattern. And then this Clarify is an AI based bias, what to say, a bias elimination system that we would say. And that kind of is built on a statistical model that they say. So these two things make a lot of sense to me in this week's announcements.
Yeah, definitely. If we can move for next slide, Nare. Yeah. Okay. There is this announcement about Amazon QuickSight Queue, which is now fetching the QuickSight insights using the normal business language. Actually, this was easily my pick of the lot, which they introduced last week, because we have this QuickSight insights dashboard, where you can just type in the search bar, like just give me the analysis of like previous year's sales report compared to this year's sales report, or previous month's sales report to the current month's sales report. It's just like we are literally typing in a Google kind of thing, so that it gives up this beautiful charts where you can compare everything, all the data that has been like prepared from the data wrangler. And it's a neat dashboard, which everyone, I guess, would be excited to use going forward. And
that reminds me of I used to work in a previous organization for a client where I was part of a business rules management system team. So we were actually providing business rules. These business rules management system actually segregates your policies, rules, and everything into a separate bucket, so that it will not be part of the code. So it will not be part of if conditions and else conditions, so that nobody can play around it. But you can modify all your business rules and policies in a separate place, and this will be driving the way the code works, right? And this whole business rules management system had a front end for the business users. It's all based on that natural language processing that you mentioned about, where you can talk in a natural language that you talk to another person. They will mention, like, I would like to filter out all the customers who are having a policy of less than 10% interest, or they can mention, I want to collect all the users who is having age from 10 years to 20 years. They can write in natural language that like that, and then we'll have a way to have different vocabulary for each of those, and then we have to build that vocabulary, and some of these are automatically generated. It's a very cool one. It's a long time back it was used in business risk management. Now I see it's happening everywhere. Natural language processing is the key for machine learning or artificial intelligence or any chatbots, right? More and more you can interact naturally is what it comes in. Alexa is not mentioned is a very good example of that.
Yeah.
Just to be on the same note, SageMaker topic also has something called as Jumpstart, which is all about developers' searchable interfaces and solutions and algorithms that can be traversed through, which is like great for the end user to get started with, right? So yeah.
And we had a special launch called Amazon Lookout for Metrics. So this is primarily directed to like find the anomaly detection service, which is for metrics and with the root cause analysis. Actually, this brings a good example which recently happened. Some days ago, like maybe a month ago or something, like we had this strange thing on Flipkart where they were giving out Disney Plus Hotstar premium subscription for the price of 99 actually. So the actual price is supposed to be around 1,500 or something, and it was put it into 99, I guess, because of some error or bug. And because of that, many people, they started placing the orders like immediately, and they started keeping purchasing it. And eventually the next day Flipkart came out with an explanation that it's just a bug on their side, and they had to refund all this people who bought that. So this lookout for metrics is a perfect use case example for that. So it looks into your order details, and it checks whether any of your products are getting checked out, or like getting ordered very far in high volume compared to the usual ones. And then it immediately gives an error with an analysis stating that, okay, this is the reason why your orders are getting picked very fast. So that was really a good thing, and we have Amazon Monitron. So Monitron is nothing but they have this sensor device which is attached to an equipment, and this equipment, this sensor, it captures the data, and it processes to AWS where it is stored in S3 bucket or anywhere, and from there machine learning, it is passed into the machine learning models where it takes this analysis and everything, and then it was able to predict earlier if the machine is having any issues, or if it is going to have any repairs in the future. I mean, they demonstrated an example like a pencil manufacturing machine, which has this constant rotations per minute RPM running, and if the RPMs were decreasing slightly for each passing day, then it's a sign that like the machine is having some issues, and they had to look it. So that is one good example where this Amazon Monitron which helps there. The next two is also the same actually. The lookout for equipment, like I said, the sensor is attached to the equipment, and other is lookout for vision. So it captures the images of the products and it stores into S3, and then it runs this visual AI models on that, and it checks whether if there are any defects in that. So all this 10th point and 11th point, that those two come together. And finally, it's Health Lake. So it's again a new service for storing and transforming and analyzing the health and life sciences data in cloud. And this is to at a petabyte scale. I mean, considering our recent events, there is a lot of data to process and everything, and there are high chances of everything getting slowed down or something. So that is the exclusive service that they have launched in the petabyte scale.
Yeah, it's HIPAA compliant. That's the most important point to note here for somebody who is going to adopt the health leg immediately. And also another thing to note here is the customer base that's already there, which includes Konica Minolta Precision Medicine, which is KMPM, and Orion Health. So that's like a big news for them, right? I mean, with HIPAA compliance and then already customers in place using it.
Naren, can we switch to next slide?
Yeah. So now we have seen the keynotes about the machine learning. I thought of drilling down to some of the machine learning related topics that we had, sessions that we had. And the first one comes very close to us. It's about ADP, HCM solutions. It's very close to us because we are working for it, most of us here in the call. And then they talked about the five. It's presented by Zayed Madud, who is our chief architect, and along with Kuntal Roy, who is our senior director of engineering. So they were specifically talking about we use lots of services of AWS. They were specifically talking this time about the Neptune, which we use for handling our data related to employee hierarchy that can help in graph database related functionalities. So talking about it, it started with the 5 pillars of the next-gen HCM platform, the important ones. The dynamic teams, this is what I explained about the employees and the hierarchy within the employees. It need not be related to person, rather it can be to a role, so that the teams can be dynamic because the shifts can change, people can change, but you can only link the hierarchies, and that way you can easily traverse towards this data. So rather than finding out who is the sub engineer working along with this guy, you can rather than putting a name to that person, you can say the role, and then you'll be able to easily identify the person. If the person changes, you don't care about your database queries because your queries are based on the rules, right? The next one is about the work and pay way. This is about the personalization with our low-code application development. So this is more about our HCM platform, which is an existing HCM platform, is a low-code application, meaning it's not just a product, it's just a platform and also the application around it. So you can build your whole thing here. Hope others can hear me clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing is about the global compliance. We need to have global scale and global scale with the global native architecture. Of course, the cloud native architecture will help us to do that. Global reachability, real data and real actions about the ALM.
Did we lose?
Yeah, I guess we lost him, I guess.
Yeah, I think maybe we can continue to cover till Naren comes. So a lot of discussion
Yeah.
happened around the global compliance, the way ADP was looking into this, especially the SOC 2 compliance and all that, which was available in hand to us. And also, as Naren was talking about, while taking some of these decisions, cloud native always comes a handy decision making tool for us, whether it's a managed services or it's a how are we going with the managed cloud native services. That's one of the aspects for which Neptune has been chosen, which is given us very high, faster bulk load, data load kind of a scenario. We were using our own graph databases in the past, and then we realized that the scalability of the way we are scaling out, scalability of this is very low with the existing whatever we were using. Then we started looking at the Neptune as one of the option to see if we can start using Neptune. And couple of decision making were done. What is it? Whether it's a open standard or not. Once we have an open standard, we wanted to check in case open queries and and also Gremlin kind of support for the queries and all that has been available with the Neptune. High availability was another thing, because Neptune was a fully high available cloud native kind of managed service. Instead of hosting our own database and managing all that, it was very difficult task. So Neptune was taken based on that. So as I was talking in the past, managed services and the compliance is always close to our heart. By doing this one, the bulk loader, which Kuntal was talking about this in the talk, it had a API call accessibility for bulk loader, and we were able to get a 10x faster load of a data, which is like a lot of time saving, because we get every day a new client get loaded in ADP as a next generation HCM platform. we don't want to spend a lot of time on the data load. We want to look more of the business logic to see how these things can be done well. So it definitely came as a big handy improvement while taking the Neptune into picture. So that's one of the aspect Naren was covering, I believe. Do you want to continue, Naren?
Sorry about that. Let me share.
Naren, while you were away, we were able to cover a couple of things. Maybe you can get into the ML part.
So hope you guys can see my screen back again. Sorry, there was a power fluctuation. There's some work going on nearby, and I lost the network and everything. So I was talking about the 5 pillars. Yes, go ahead, Rafiq.
Yeah. While you were away, we were able to cover the 5 pillars. Maybe you can get into the real data, real action aspect of it.
Yeah, sure. I think we were able to also cover the overall platform where we are around managing around 200 microservices. We use most of the AWS services. We are fully AWS, and then we are able to handle it. The next thing that I want to discuss around is about the key features of.
Is Naren breaking for all of us, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever happens with the AWS and other things, I want somebody like a very reliable kind of AWS to give us the internet accessibility as a managed service. No need to worry more about this hiccups.
I can just talk about one of the downtimes that we faced in ADB, and then this Neptune DB. The advantage of having around close to 15 plus read replicas, we don't use all of the 15 read replicas, and the ability to switch over that quickly to do any kind of resizing or make a kind of a fallback plan. It's very amazing thing that this we faced in one of our in one of our situations in ADB.
Yeah, that's definitely beauty of the managed services, where some of the things which people try to maintain it as an internal database versus the managed services comes so much handy. The skill pool and the go global becomes very easier aspect of the cloud world. So Neptune definitely made a difference for us. Yeah, another one thing people worry more about the database patching, database backups, licensing, and all that, right? That just got removed the moment we got into the Neptune world for the bulk loads. I think definitely came very handy for us.
Right.
This Neptune as a graph DB is kind of amazing, right? I mean, we talk about high availability in terms of RDS, in terms of records and in NoSQL model. But just imagining a graph DB, the millions of correlations that it can have. For example, an employee or an associate referral structure here, right? I mean, that's amazing to see how a 15 replica can be in action and can be switched over quickly with the expected RTO and RPO, let alone the nuances of having an automated backup in the disaster recovery. Having a graph DB itself as a managed services is kind of a relief to a lot of us.
Yeah, kind of looking for my power and the internet also to be managed service somewhere. So I don't want to worry about go. I just ran down to switch on my power back. There is a power. The key features of why Neptune, so specifically about the dynamic team that I mentioned about why Neptunes, right? So Neptunes is a graph DB. There are lots of graph DBs. We basically they explained they have actually evaluated. And the reason why they picked up Neptune is the one, like Rafiq explained, it's a managed service, as we know, comes up with all the advantages of any managed service. The compliance, it is already compliant with SOC 2. It has the security part, which is already encrypted at rest, right? Credentials are easily managed with AWS Secret Manager, which is the central place where we manage all of our credentials. And then the open standards. This is the key one. All the graph databases, there are some of the graph databases that has lock-in, so you'll have to understand their graph query language. and there are different varieties of it. So specifically, Neptune supports open standards, so there is no vendor lock-in in the sense you are using just a Gremlin server and the SparkQL query language, which is open standard, supported by every lots of major graph query databases. So in case if you want to switch over, you can easily switch over. And then of course the availability, high availability of tolerant at the zone failures, which Shiva explained very well. So these are the key features why Neptune was selected by them. So I just covered it because it's important for anybody who is trying to make a choice for GraphDB. So rather than reinventing the wheel, this has been done before. It's been used by ADP for a while. So now about the second part, this is a key part. One specific use case. So the main use case that they had in mind was how to bulk load this data, right? Whenever we onboard a new customer, there's a huge number of association between the employees comes in with hierarchies, and each of these hierarchies, the metadata will be completely different. Need not be the same because these are different organizations, varieties of organizations we are talking about. So GraphDB exactly fits in there because you do not worry about the schema. Schema is generated on the fly. You do not worry about how your record looks like. And then the graph querying, like you have the links, and then you can query based on these links, based on roles and stuffs. That's one thing. The second part is how you're going to bulk load this data without impacting the live cluster that's actually accessing the data, right? Two parts to it. We had a simple bulk service that actually called the bulk API, which is coming out of the box along with Neptune. That way we're able to push this data to Neptune, also to backing up in the S3. And then we were able to also take a copy of that, put it in Elastic Cache. So based on from where you are accessing, either you are accessing directly from Neptune, or it will be a cache based on the hit or miss, how your cache is. There we had a reader service, right? So basically it's very simple, but the advantage here is we are able to do a bulk because the bulk API is available natively, which is a very, very key requirement for us, because most of the time we get with the data which is already there. We are not building it for startups, we are building for huge organizations. So data is already there, we need to bulk upload them. So that way it was pretty useful. The key point about the read replicas, which Shiva mentioned, is the advantage of the read replicas, right? We are doing a bulk load of data and we don't want any of the downtimes in our write access or our application. It is actually reading the data. So we actually were able to segregate this, creating lots of read replicas. So the people are able to upload at the same time while people are accessing the application seamlessly without any notice of any blips, right? So summarizing, what are the key takeaway? Neptune gives the scalability, availability with open standards, right, and supports graph database requirements, which is important. Neptune has support for bulk APIs that I just explained. Neptune read replicas can help in fast access, again without having to have any impact because of the bulk loading of data that you will do. So as I already mentioned, key use is around the dynamic themes. And as we are most of us here from ADP, if you like the way we are doing this, just one part of the way we are doing this, one use case of what we are doing, just one piece of the overall puzzle. If you like what we are doing, come join us, reach out to us, either Rafiq or me. We are available in LinkedIn. I'm easily locatable at Naren Krish with double H, and then let me know. We can connect.
Just wanted to
That's a
mark it
good
a
one.
little bit.
That's a good one. Thank you. Yeah, we need more hands, more smart guys coming and joining us.
Yep, just wanted to add some more things on that which was not covered in reInvent, but then just that last use case that Naren talked about, right? The bulk higher loads and the RDS. When we talk about the bulk, it is always time consuming, and let alone the operational overheads. We also use Amazon SageMaker and Jupyter Notebooks to do this, while everything is seamless to our clients on the read replicas. We do a lot of bulk loading just with a few clicks of APIs. And bulk loads are quite easy, being totally on cloud native services here on Amazon, right? So that's another thing that I wanted to cover. Maybe a brownie star for me for covering this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shiva. Yep.
Yeah, the next use case that I want to talk about is about BMW Group, about their automated autonomous driving, how they are using the analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence to really, and again the services provided by AWS to really start learning about it, understanding about the traffic conditions, about the driver's conditions, about the driving methods and stuff like that. It's very interesting talk. I intentionally jumped into it when I saw this heading because we always know, okay, there is something autonomous coming in, it's happening. I know in India we have this MG Gloucester, which has this autonomous driving. But it always wonders me how they can really calculate all those data so dynamically and within the machine that is there within your car, because it's not some, you can't send it to somewhere cloud and cross and come back because you don't know how the network is going to be. So it's all very interesting. So I really jumped into this session. I will not go very deep into it because it's too much of details, but I'll try to cover very high level, right? So what the data that they collect on a high level, right? It's called ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistant. So they will actually collect the usual speed, your number of brakes and number of turns and stuff like that. They also collect the data about the lane markings based on your driving speed, detecting vehicle attributes, not just your vehicle, also the vehicles that are around you, to understand how relatively you are driving, and also the dynamics of the customer himself, right? Because each customer is different. Each of us will drive in a different way when we take our cars. So they collect this information, and again with the big codes, of course, without any privacy information, right? They will only cover the information. With that information, you will not be able to determine who is the actual driver or which is the exact vehicle that they use. This is just to identify the subset or samples of data are available, and use this information to analyze further to understand the overall driving conditions better. That way, you can really make this driver assisted driver or an automated autonomous driving possible, right? So they are talking about a data volume of more than 1 billion kilometers that they have collected to understand this. So you can imagine how complex the data is. Sorry about the background noise.
Maybe is that a
No,
connected
it's
car?
not much.
It's, I think, just driving around. People are, yeah. And then, the next one is about the cut-in. This is an important part. So we normally overtake, and then and then people overtake us, and that's simply called cut-in. I understand. So it's basically when you're doing an autonomous driving, it's not just about how safely you're driving. Right? It's about, even if we drive, it's not just about how safely we are, how safe driver we are. It's also about how safer the driver who is coming around, right? And how you
And
can
what
react.
time it is?
How you can
What time
react
of
in
the
it.
day?
Exactly. So how you can react to that dynamically, it's very important. How quickly you can react to that, right? And how it can happen in an autonomous driving case. So you need to understand much more parameters here to really make your car safe, because that's the primary thing to check off if you have to do an autonomous driving, right? So basically, it's again a very simple example that talks about ego. Ego is the car that we are talking about, our customer's vehicle, and then there's a lane where he is actually following. And then there are other objects. These are either objects or vehicles, whatever is coming on his way. It's possible they're actually cutting him into the lane that Ego is driving, right? So you should have the knowledge about your car, and then you should know about the lane where you are. You should know about how the people, the objects or the vehicles around you is reacting, and then try to predict whether the vehicle is trying to do a cut-in, and then help the driver either with an immediate brake, or understanding about how you can help the driver. Like, there is also they mentioned about advanced steering assistant, where normally when you power steer, there is a speed it will react, right? They will increase the power steer on the fly, so that it just jumps to the next lane much faster and safer. So these are very interesting. So these kind of details. So again, this is just a very quick graph about when they collected this information about the cut-ins. This data is collected in Europe, so you should understand it's the vehicle driving is different than what we do in India. It's opposite to that. So from the left lane when somebody is cutting, what is happening? From the right lane when somebody is cutting, what is happening? And they are also talking about these edge cases where people are driving much faster, and they are like cutting in a direction where normally people won't do it, right? They are very close. They are trying to cut in. They are very slow. They are not overtaking enough, but they are like little bit almost your speed, and they are trying to cut in. So all these variations they have gathered, and they are trying to understand how the system should react, or in this case, your vehicle that you are driving, right? That's about the use case. Now, how this part is only going to explain about how they are collecting this data, meaning ingesting of it, right? It's not about what they are doing, how they are doing the analysis. That's beyond the scope of this presentation that is provided by BMD Group. I didn't mention about their presenter. Sorry about that. So the actual there are two presenters. One is Mark Newman, who is from BMW Group. The other one is Junaji, who is from the AWS speaker, right? So these two people gave the presentation, splitting among themselves. It was very interesting presentation. I would really ask you to go to the actual presentation and watch it once to understand about how this whole thing's happen. I again try to be very fast here. So customer fleet is nothing but your information that comes from your driven car, right? And then it's collected based in an S3 bucket, this information. So either the device itself is pushing, or there are like base stations that they have around, just collecting the information, putting into the S3 bucket, and then the ingestion part. So these done by they, what are the different services they use? They use Elasticsearch, they use Glue, right? They use S3 bucket. So these are the main things they are using, and then of course they have the analytics based on Ethena, right? So these are the very quick. If you see, they are ingesting the data, they are actually signaling the drives. They actually collect whether there is a drive ended or not. It's a single trip or not. So they will wait for 8 hours. They'll collect all the data, and then based on the duration, when last it's completed, last information you reviewed, they decide whether it's a trip completed or not. Right? There are lots of interesting stuff in the session, and then they actually include their reference data to understand, remove the noise from the actual data. They ingest it into an S3 bucket. Finally, it's also pushed to an Elasticsearch if they want to do some kind of scenario identification. Scenario is nothing but this cut-ins, or overtakings, or whatever you're doing while you're driving your vehicle. And then they do some kind of auto labeling so that they can index this information and easily search for it. It's also pushed into an Elasticsearch so that it's indexed further, right? Then this data is even further refined using AWS Glue. AWS Glue, but as we know, is an ETL service from AWS, which helps you to really, do your data cataloging, and then you'll be able to revise it later so that it is useful enough. So this all cleaning up, filtering, removing the noise, and then you get the data finally to actually do the data analysis, right? And just for this part, they have built this one. And I'll in the takeaway, I will give some kind of figures that they explained. It's going to be huge. So let's wait for it. So the key takeaways, right? One test vehicle in general produces around 10 to 100 TB of data per day, right? Each day they get, you can say, in the range of 10 to 100 TB of data. And then they are talking about around 200 to 600 terabytes of data per year in one test fleet, right? So the amount of data, they have to actually make sure everything is cleaned up. They need the necessary information. They understand each one of them in a way they can understand, and then they have to group them, analyze it, and then produce some kind of output. So they extensively use EMR for data analytics. EMR is a cluster where you can run different data analytics parallelly. And then spot instances as EMR nodes for cost effectiveness, because they're doing only 1 in 8 hours. They don't want their instances to be running all the time, so they use spot instances, right? And then AWS Glue is used for cataloging the data. AWS Elasticsearch for indexing, and Athena, as we know, is for querying. S3, as you saw in the previous slide, used extensively for storing the data and moving it, right? One last use case from me, bear with me one more time. This is the last slide. I'm not going to give any details about this one. I would really like you to go there and see the actual session for this. I'll just take the key takeaways of it. So this is a session called 400 Years of Serverless Land Deeds. It's taken by Keith. He's the chief architect of Registers of Scotland. They call it Ross. And then it's also shared by Charlie, who is the AWS speaker, architect on AWS side, who helped them. These a government organization. They are actually collecting the land deeds information of everybody in Scotland. So we can talk about 100 million deeds that they have, and they have 400 years of data, because it's like the parent document that we call in India. That's what I can imagine. So they have this information about who, what, and what is each and every agreement, who is the owner of it, and to whom it is getting transferred, and things like that, right? What is the requirement? Requirement is going to be simple when it comes to a government organization that deals with land deeds. You can imagine extreme durability. They can't just lose data. You can't say to somebody, I lost your data, right? They have indefinite retention. They can't just say, I will go, after 30 days, I can delete that data. So that's not going to happen. It's going to be indefinite retention, and then highest security possible, right? How they achieved it? So they use S3. S3, as we know, is having 11 nines of durability, which Shiva also commented last time, imagining durability in something in data storage, right? So in practice, what does it mean to Ross, right? It means 100 million deeds. They can, by 11 nines, they can only lose one document in every 1,000 years. So definitely is these stories that they picked up for their durability requirement, right? And they cover the security using lots of security best practices. One is a very simple IAM based fine-grained access, so that not everybody will have access to all the documents. Based on the hierarchy, they will be able to access certain documents and certain information. There are some summary documents, there are some detailed PDFs, etc. And then APIs are protected using the Cognito, AWS Cognito, which actually every API you need to pass a token. You can't just do a plain API call. So that's the key takeaway of it. Again, go back and see. Keith actually started with a very good use case of how your grandmother bought a land from somebody else, who bought it from somebody else, and how it is getting stored. And imagine how you can go through this data, search it, analyze it, provide somebody if they want some information, or even do some kind of checks. If somebody wants some information around this data, they started doing this using papers, and they were all implementing indexing, hashing, etc. Of course, without computers or typewriters, meaning they were manually indexing all the documents, manually doing hashes of the documents, putting lots of table of contents, and then trying to derive the data, even manually, even before the computers were introduced. And then with AWS, actually they moved everything digitalized, and then they are able to do it on the cloud. So it's a very interesting talk. Go back and check it. I will stop here.
Hopefully SageMaker has.
Very good. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Hopefully SageMaker has a model to predict which one of those 100 million documents will get lost in 1,000 years. Hopefully, right?
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of interesting use cases going to come. Looking at this is again another one thing blockchain market is trying to capture. This is exactly the use case I heard in the Telangana state, and one of the chief ministers was talking about how do we convert our document into a blockchain kind of a thing. Definitely, tons of use cases are going to come. Very good one, Naren. I'm definitely going to watch that. And even the collection of data, right? In the other case of the BMW, I'm sure all the companies are even looking at the prediction of a human behavior in India. If they can do it, they'll get most of the patents to design it. So the possibilities are going to be
identifying the lane is going to be the biggest challenge, but remaining.
Yeah. Except that, how do we manage without the lanes, right? I think if we know that, then it can predict and say that, okay, you don't have a lane, but you can still go ahead like this. And the data is coming from some of the roads we regularly use. So, yeah.
Maybe some kind of chaos engineering?
Yeah. Yeah, that's another day's topic.
I will let Rajesh to take over the infrastructure keynotes.
Yeah, sure, Naren. Like I said, this is the fourth keynote of reInvent 2020, which was taken by Peter DeSantis. It's nothing like on what basis AWS built their infrastructure. I mean, we built our infrastructure based on AWS, right? So it is good to hear how AWS built their infrastructure. And he actually opened it with the quote from their CTO of Amazon, who is Dr. Werner Rogels. So he has this perspective like everything fails. I mean, that's what you need to have a perspective when you are designing any service or any application, because that's when we'll be prepared to come up with a backup or preventive step or precautionary step and everything. So AWS obviously built their infrastructure based on this principle. And there was some recap about what are all the regions that are currently active and what are all that is coming soon. And if you guys are aware, we are going to get a region in Hyderabad, mostly by 2022, I guess. That is the second region in India. And there are some other places where they are going to open new regions as well. And a quick demo on how EC2 instances support Mac. I mean, we discussed about this last week itself. I mean, when AWS gave this announcement of EC2 instance with Mac. So they had this small demo where they place a Mac Mini in the server, and they connect it to their Amazon Nitro, so that it's not based on any hypervisor or anything. It's actually a Mac Mini which is sitting on the AWS infrastructure, so that you can run your EC2 from your AMIs. So it was, yeah.
That's a very good explanation. I think encourage people who are looking at the Mac kind of thing in the cloud to look at. They did not tamper anything of the Mac. They just connected the Nitro, and the way with the Thunderbolt there, they were able to extract the information
Yeah.
and make it like a very fluid for people to experience. I'm definitely going to plan and use that Mac OS on cloud. That
Definitely.
they made it very well. Yeah, thank you for covering that.
Everything fails is a one good example where they kind of explained this with Prime Video and users. A lot of users
Yeah.
streaming about it. I would
Yeah, we actually
definitely.
have a slide. We'll
Yeah,
see in detail
that's
about
a
that.
very good use case to discuss. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And and there we have again a Nitro 4, which is an Amazon custom silicon. And there was a brief overview of this Graviton 2, which is their ARM chip, and how efficient are its workloads compared to the existing chips. It was like mostly based on the stats, like they say it's 30% or 40% faster or something like that. And it pretty much covered that. And they introduced this Postgres TPC Hammer DB. It looks like a powerful tool for Postgres. And finally, last but not least, the very important thing about the climate change, and all their facilities, like be it an availability zone, or be it an region which is comprised of multiple availability zones. There are obviously concerns, like since there is a huge facility, it draws more power, there gets water supply, how it's getting rotated, and obviously the carbon emission which happens. So they showed that they were able to reduce carbon reduction by 88% compared to previous year, which is a very good thing, I would say. And there was some renewable energy, like solar panels, windmills, something like that. And finally, how they use water reusability. So they plan to be completely carbon free by 2040. So that's the timeline AWS are looking at. So that was a brief overview of the infrastructure keynote.
Do we a couple of things on the AWS? The way they are looking at the things, right? One is the failure part. If we can go back to this slide, Sajid. Yeah. Everything fails. I think that's one very good takeaway for all of the people who's watching our channel, to anticipate failure. Don't go with too much of positivity. Things would definitely fail. We realize in the operations world that maybe this is AWS, it would not fail, or something like the data center mindset also, right? When we were in the data centers world, we also had that mindset, but at back of our mind, it's like, okay, this may not go wrong. But I think the design, when you do with everything can fail and create your product based on that, I think that's definitely a good fundamental thing for operations people and everybody who operates with the system, the well architected framework kind of a thing. If you're designing, take that. I think that's one thing you should stick it on your tables to say that, okay, everything can fail, and what is that we have it in our place to make sure that we have some kind of a plan. That's a very good example given. Have a look at the keynote. We don't have all the graphics to show that, but the way simplest thing, the UPS, the way he was showing how they were able to bifurcate one of the generators and create another parallel generator kind of a power supply to that. I can correlate this with many of the examples we were managing when data centers. One small example is that one of the data center we were managing, and we consider another data center as our role model. Everything what is there, we replicated in India. After a couple of years, we realized that somebody told that our role model database, I did not want to mention the company name, but the role model data center went down for beyond 6 hours. When we woke up, we were like, what happened? Because everything available there is what we also planned it. Now, we were very curious to understand what happened. Then we got to know that both the power supplies given to the data center coming from the same vendor, and when power went down, everything went down. In India, we didn't had two different power suppliers, but at the same time, we had another source coming from the generator and the UPS. That definitely made a difference for us. But yeah, some of these learnings, when we always look at the cloud world, right? You should also start thinking that how are they managing and what is that we can learn from them. And in the keynote, he mentioned another good example because they have 15 years of experience in the Amazon world, right? Whatever they are giving to the operations world is based on the experience they have. He very clearly explained that the nothing can compensate kind of an experience what they have, and we should all the organizations, you have your own experiences, build on top of it. I think the experience is what the culture and the key takeaways for your company when you're building the AWS infrastructure. I think that's some of the very good key takeaways, I would say. And one another thing which I really liked it in the AWS world, the culture aspect, and they were saying that every leader is expected to be in the ground to know the basics and build on top of it. They were again explaining the operations world. If you don't know how to operate, then you cannot build on top of it. That's a very good example of people getting into the senior roles or people getting moving into the different roles. You should understand what's happening at the ground level so that your infrastructure is built in a way, because DevOps world is so moving faster. I think some of these key takeaways would definitely help you build the infrastructure very well. So yeah, have a look at that keynotes. Lot of lines. I think the first 30 minutes is like I did not even blink when I was watching it. I always like the way Peter does that. Yeah, missing the crowd, but rest everything was the same.
Yeah, and another key takeaway, Rafik, I just wanted to add to your thing is the culture of Amazon in making game days and chaos engineering as a model within their organization to predict and deal with operational failures. Think of a service called as game day service that's totally built on their own AWS system manager and a failure injection system, and then analysis on top of it that feeds back to game day service. I mean, it's worth an experiment. Everybody try in their operations world, because failures tend to happen, and go with the mindset, as Amazon said, everything fails, right? It's a very good model to look into it. And just that game days and chaos engineering is always our favorite topic in ADB as well. We try to follow this.
Yeah. One thing which maybe Naren, you can cut this topic if there are too many AWS fans, but look at the way AWS was looking at everything, right? When you were looking at the video, even the power supply switch, which manages the software, they did not depend on the third party. They want to build their own software. A circuit breaker, they wanted to build their own. And rest of the world, we are just making the third party AWS to tell us what to do. That's something every company has to start thinking, that not everything should go to cloud. What is your proprietary? You always maybe having something very strong at a specific region where AWS is just coming up. Don't jump into that. Anywhere, everything can fail. AWS can quote the same thing back to you saying that everything can fail. So be prepared for the kind of disaster that can happen. So this is just with our learnings, right? It's not that everything is like don't believe in the unicorns and the silver bullet. There's nothing. Again, going back to everything can fail. You should anticipate there can be a failure happening and start building towards that. If you feel you are very strong at your own data center, it doesn't mean that everything should go to cloud. But what you can utilize from there is a more of an innovation thing. You can start using it where you're strong. You should keep your strengths with you and then play along with that. I think that some of those are good things to learn from cloud world. So.
Yeah, so they always highlight that shared responsibility model.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for bringing this good topic.
And now if we switch back to containers, yes, there are some quite handful of sessions in week 2 as well. So one which I was very interested was this session, Modernizing Applications with Containers, which was taken by Deepak Singh. He's a VP of Computer Services, and it is a leadership session, and he was suggesting some patterns that usually companies should follow, organizations should follow if they are planning to migrate into cloud. So the main three strategies that was discussed in the session were replatform, where they just containerize the applications and migrate it to the cloud. And the second is refactor, where they completely have to re-architect and for the cloud capabilities and everything, and optimize for the cost efficiency. And the third one is if you are bringing any new service, and if you're building any new application, then build it as a shared services platform and optimizing it for speed of development. So these are the main three strategies Deepak was covering in the session. And
One
yeah.
one thing I think I highly recommend that Deepak's presentation also. Another thing, one important thing which he added is that when people are moving to cloud, uh, there is always this question that whether we do a lift and shift model, or do we need to go ahead with the replatforming and the refactoring and the new application, right? I think there is a definitely point to go towards containers, and how do you want to make sure if there is any lease or something, people can break the lease, get into the lift and shift model, but you should definitely start looking at the containers, because every company is now looking at the millions of users scalability, right? I think yeah, that's definitely a good takeaway to think around the containerization, refactoring the architecture, and to make sure that your new application works for the speed. Yeah, that very highly recommend that Deepak's presentation was very good.
And to
Just
add to the growing customers, I think this pandemic has shown that everything needs to be digitalized. Digitalized things are the key. Even such things happens and everybody has to stay at home. I think it's better to digitalize everything, make it cloud, and then make sure the customers are always reachable. Always, customers can always reach you. Always, your application is available, irrespective of where they are, how they are. I think this is very important
Yeah.
key. It's very important key takeaway.
Yeah.
just think of
If we move to the
can't
next.
can't
Yeah.
move away from this anomaly. Just that when you shift houses, you carry your furniture as it is to a house. That's a re-platform, and then you kind of put those furnitures, move them around, and then see that if it fits into your new house, that's refactor. And then start, if everything doesn't work, just rebuild, buy new furnitures. That's your build new applications. So just go read about it. There are a lot of paradoxes like this.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
Shiva, we should do a video on that. All my videos in the past are also based on
Yeah,
analogies. I think it's a very interesting analogy. We
definitely.
should do a
Yeah.
video on that. Sure.
And yeah, if we move to the next slide, here we have actually how to get started. And there is a dedicated AWS app to container service, which it makes getting started with the containers way. And now they are even collaborating with native Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS. So these are the suggestions that Deepak was giving for the problem, like the same question like Shiva said, right? How to start it? You try to rebuild or replatform or everything. So app to container service looks like a good starting point for who is considering to migrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the next session, next slide, Naren, you could see. So these are the some suggested sessions by Deepak himself. You can see like he has covered on like ECS, EKS, and choosing your container data plane. And he also touched a few of the topics which we actually covered in our previous week one recap, like Copilot or AWS Proton, which we use for like automatic deployment service and all this. So he almost summed up whatever things that we discussed in week one of containers. So that is a really good summary. And he had this suggestion, like to go through all this, whoever like more interested on this modernizing their containers. So this is one good session. And Narayan, if we can go to the next slide. This is a quick slide that I want to bring because it fascinated me, which is AWS Controllers for Kubernetes by J Pipes. He's the principal open source engineer. So what happens is like if a Kubernetes person who only writes a YAML definition file and who is very familiar with Kubernetes, if they build a service and if they want a backend database and other AWS services, he considered a scenario like they are not very familiar with GUI and they are not even familiar with infrastructure as a code, like be it Terraform or CloudFormation. So what is the solution for them? So that's where this AWS Controllers for Kubernetes comes in. So here in this, what happens is you can write a YAML file and you can call the respective AWS service API, and you can actually define your infrastructure, whatever that is needed. I mean, whatever the AWS service that is needed, so that this YAML file, this itself, it creates all these backend database or be an S3 bucket and everything. So like I said, it's just a collection of Kubernetes custom controllers and AWS service API resources, just another Kubernetes manifest, and it is used to manage the lifecycle of AWS resources. So
yeah, it is one similar to that CDK we defined, which is like based on program, you can, writing programming languages, you'll be able to build your infrastructure. I think there was also something brought up in one of the past sessions in Terraform by Ravi about Polemy, which is also again program-based infrastructure management. So these were the developers who are using in Kubernetes YAML extensively anyway for building their applications. Why not extending using that YAMLs to also build the infrastructure? So for a DevOps team which wants to manage everything via Kubernetes, that way you need not maintain another technology like Terraform to manage your infrastructure. And basically Kubernetes is going to go and provision your infrastructure. In this example, it's going to be AWS infrastructure, right? Very, very interesting.
Yeah. And next, if we move on to the next slide. So yeah, this is what actually Shiva was talking about, right? So they purposefully, they, introduce this chaos engineering in Amazon Prime Video production system, where they have this game day service kind of service, which is a custom built tool by Amazon themselves, so that it serves their purpose. So I'll just give a quick recap of what's happening here. So if you ignore the first two layers, that is systems manager and failure injection, the actual flow is what you see there. So you see the gateway service, and there are SQS streams who are streaming any English Premier League football games or some other Premier League games, and it generates load generators, which are a fleet of EC2 instances, which generates this load. And there is actually the Prime Video, which is actually sitting on the EC2 bunch of instances. So what happens is when this traffic comes in, the load gets built up, and EC2, it starts, doing this thing, and it forwards all the logs to CloudWatch, and then we do analysis, and there is CloudWatch alarms. Now in the same scenario, they just added 2 steps, which is for automating the failures. So they have this systems manager where they can run few scripts on this Prime Video EC2 instances. What it does is, to keep it in simple terms, it just goes and randomly deletes some EC2 instances, or it removes some of the EC2 instances from load balancers, so that they could verify how it is responding to the load or stream, whatever they are receiving. So this is really a good thing. And it really gave a good perspective as to how they perform chaos engineering from their side. I mean, we often listen Netflix Chaos Monkey or something like that, and this is a good session on Prime Video. Okay, and last but not least from me.
Just 1 second, Rajesh, before we move on. I came back to this slide. About chaos engineering, as Shiva hinted, we have already started practicing this in ADP as well. And then talking about it, we are going to also have some videos in this channel. So subscribe so that you'll be able to watch them. Talking about chaos engineering in practice, if you are hearing it for the first time, or if you're already aware of it, come join us to understand how it can be done in a production system safely, and also in a way you can identify outage as well before it is really happening. So stay tuned for that.
I think we already have this everything can fail mindset.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, and last but not least from me, it's a cost optimization session by Ashish Palekar. He's a project manager from EBS. So I'll just put up this agenda thing where he covered what's EBS, what are the new changes that they are bringing for SE1 and ST1 type of storages. And he gave this beautiful demo about the data lifecycle manager. So I'll just add two statements about that. So it's like we tend to create more AMIs, right? So using Packer or EC2 image builder, we create more AMIs and then we do deployments. And once the AMIs get old, we just replace them with new ones. So this cycle, it keeps on going. And we also have EBS volumes attached, and we constantly need snapshot for the purpose of backups or redundancy. So this what this data lifecycle manager does is you can specify like you want to keep this many AMIs or these many old days AMIs and remove the rest of them, and then in the same way we can apply to snapshots as well. So it makes the job for us easier. So earlier what we used to do is we write some lambda script and we do a code like we go and check whichever the EBS volume which is older than 30 days or 60 days, and then we go in and delete. So this data lifecycle manager, it makes our work easier. And there are a couple of slides also about the R5B instance for consolidated workloads and IO2 block express, which we have discussed last week. And yeah, so we will be definitely doing a dedicated section. I mean, there are a couple of more cost optimization sessions as well. So we'll try to, concatenate all these three sessions and come up with a video so that all it would be of good use for organizations who are planning to reduce their infrastructure costs.
Yeah, talking about the infrastructure announcements, right? I mean, just a couple of things introduced new. Elastic MapReduce, Amazon's own EMR, is now supported on EKS. Big data fans, here is the news for you. EMR as a service on EKS, it does excite me, definitely. The second one is for people who run Postgres in their data center premises and doing vacuum practices, right? The similar approach on Redshift and automatic table optimizations, right? So these are two things that you should definitely watch out for. Maintaining databases, maintaining a Redshift cluster, and doing an automatic table optimization is something that is really, really a day in and day out ops job, and watch out for this feature.
I like the way how you politely mentioned vacuum services.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving on to the new launches, the AWS Audit Manager. So, Audit Manager is always the compliance is one part where everywhere will get stuck during their operational workloads. They need to get back to their compliance, non-compliance thing. We need to arrest it immediately without securities. Go ahead. We don't continue others' work. So it's always a pain point to understand what is compliant and what is non-compliant. So the team, usually the enterprise will look out for multiple alternative tools from the outside vendors, like for example Dom9 and then Redlock. So many products are available to support the audit and compliance. So right now AWS has introduced this new service called Audit Manager. It is going to help to understand the risk assessment and the compliance around the services which we are in our AWS accounts. So we can build the customizable frameworks. Also, we can use the existing frameworks in the in the market. For example, PCI compliances, DSS, and then GDPR. So likewise, we have a number of compliance frameworks. So we can run those frameworks to understand whether our AWS services are feasible to that award, to understand the non-compliance resources. And then once the audit manager is looking at various services, it is collecting the whole data, and it is giving in a normal report kind of thing. So you can find your you can work on those non-compliance things, and you can upload your evidences and people can see easily what are all the evidences has been attached to those non-compliant resources. So definitely this audit manager is going to help at a high level when compared to other products which is available in the market. So already they are partnering with multiple vendors. So Deloitte Touch. Yeah, Naren, can you move on to next slide? Yeah, so we'll just have a quick walkthrough. I don't want to take much time. Like this is the console view, like where you can get into the audit manager, then create an assessment, then authorize overall in scope, then add the accounts, then what are the services you're going to add. You can quickly add those services. Then based upon the framework, the entire assessment will run. So once the assessment has been run, you can view your report, and within the report you can click on particular non-compliant and where exactly what is the evidence you're going to attach. You can attach it, and then you can download the whole file as a report. So this is going to help at a high level while running the compliance and risk assessment. Yeah, next slide. So as I said, every time AWS is going to involve the right partners while they are introducing the new services. Likewise, they are partnering with Deloitte, and who's one of the leader in the audit and compliance, and similarly many other vendors in the market. And right now it is available in these regions like US and then Asia Pacific and Europe. You can view it. And moving on to next. So the VPC Reachability Analyzer. So from the reachability wise, always it's a pain point, like whether Amazon services are working perfectly or what, how we can troubleshoot it. Is it I'm going to reach out to each and every service? For example, if my EC2 is not reachable, whether I'm going to check out the VPC flow logs or the security group or the ENI logs, I'll get confused at one stage. If a newbie is coming, he has to know the entire services in hand. Then only he can reach out to multiple services to understand one particular issue. So in this front, VPC Reachability Analyzer is going to help their operational engineers to diagnose the issue. So it's a network diagnostic tool. It is going to check the reachability between two endpoints. So it'll have the algorithm based troubleshooting. It will reach out to each and every service in the path. For example, the EC2 and then the ENI flow logs. Then whether the security group ports are allowed or not. So in such a way, it is going to do the troubleshooting and it will give you the result back to you. So they have automated the whole process. We can go through the simple walkthrough. So here is you can see it in the reachability menu under the VPC itself, and you can define your source type. So where you're going to do the reachability check on your VPC peering connections, then you can define your source, destination, and what is the things like that. You need to define all those things. Once you run this reachability analyzer, it will run and give you the result at the end. So once we have the result, whether it will be reachable or not reachable depends on that. You can click on the error log and you can further view the exact issue. And you can access this reachability analyzer through management console as well as CLI, then CloudFormation SDK, and the query API as well. So you can make use of this reachability analyzer. And definitely, it is going to reduce our troubleshooting time. So this is one of the interesting point from the troubleshooting front. So these two, audit manager and the reachability analyzer, is going to help us very much. So go through it, and we'll just come back with some detailed explanation later. Do subscribe by Bytes. We'll post our videos from the AWS Re key takeaways, and we'll try to dig in detail. Thank you very much.
Just wanted to also bring about the point of these 2 weeks AWS reInvent. There is something called as local zones that was introduced by AWS, and talking about the data centers. Even in this day of cloud, where it's not my computer kind of a feeling is there now, right? People are talking about the gaming industries, the video industry, the video streaming industry, of course, and then talking about localizing the zones, and AWS is coming up with few availability zones that can be edge use cases for these things. Go watch out and read about the local zones in AWS. Another important thing about this AWS reInvent is the use case that Verizon presented one of our favorite tools, Blue Jeans. Berus Nasser, VP Operations Security of Blue Jeans by Verizon, was here presenting it. It's about the challenges they were facing on an on-prem data center model, how moving to AWS helped them to triple the capacity and requirements that they had, especially with pandemic hit. And then also ability to have multiple audience participating in a stream, and their prediction towards how would video conferencing move in March 22. It's like an amazing presentation that we should all look at, with different geographies, who's most using the video conference tools, how do they scale it. Go watch for it. It's definitely worth watching, especially if you have scale up problems in your infrastructure. They have dealt it the best way in a hybrid model, that too. So that's definitely a key thing to watch out.
Thank you, Shiva. That's definitely a good use case. I think every one of us was looking at a stable web conferences kind of a links. I think those links definitely did a good job during this.
This amazing talk. I think we had a very good opportunity interacting with each one of us with our own topics, and then it was very interesting. As I already pointed out, AWS reInvent is a very huge event. It's not just a couple of sessions. They are having, thousands of sessions, and then they were. It's just huge. So it's impossible for anybody to go through all the videos, even if you want to. I think people like us communicating together, collaborating, and then bringing our ideas. I think it's very hard to match on it, even if you're working, in a nearby organization, same organizations, or even if you're sitting next to each other. Probably will not spend time discussing about an event like this. I think no matter what about the reachability of this video, I would rather like the way we communicate to each other, and then we were able to collaborate. And thanks for these people who are here sitting in front of me, who took their time to join during the weekend, spending their time to share their knowledge. And I think it's very important. Rafiq, any last words?
Yeah. I think just wanted to thank everyone for taking time. I know if you intentionally try to sit, especially people in India, it's different time zone altogether for us. Very difficult to get into and watch. Thank you everyone for watching your bit of thing and taking out the key information and passing on to people. I think this is definitely a very good community kind of collaboration kind of a thing for us. People who joined the Chennai Tech Radar or Bribe Bytes, I'm sure they are going to enjoy the talk while they're walking, watching, or doing something of some exercise. They can just listen to this healthy conversation and figure out what happened. You don't have to go through so many tracks. That's the overall intention, and definitely we had a very good encouragement last week. Video was like kind of a viral, and the number of views we saw, it's definitely a good thing to see people are trying to listen to this. One last thing just wanted to mention is whatever people try to do, right? There are so many cloud providers, and there's definitely one good thing about the AWS is there will be downsides and all that, but AWS got this for last 10 years. They're winning in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. That getting to that place for 10 years is not definitely something easier thing. So they're playing such a key role, creating a role model for many of the teams to follow. The second place I think is in Microsoft, and after that is Google, then Ali Cloud. All of them are catching up to the speed, but I think when you try to get into cloud, some of these things you have to take into mind. Going into cloud is like, I think in 2022 or 23, people are predicting the cloud market is going to be around 500 billion. Me being worked in Nokia for long, the company was sold for 6 billion. The cloud market is going to be like 500 billion is something you can imagine post pandemic, how people are going to opt for the cloud world and how they are going to migrate, the kind of work going to happen. If anybody did not get a chance to go more into the cloud world, I think this is the right opportunity. You heard the keynotes, the things which are interested to you, go further, learn more about it. There are a lot of certifications open for the public to learn now. I think that's definitely going to help everyone. So yeah, thank you all for bringing the very key topics into one place.
Yeah, this is a very interesting talk. Thanks, Rafiq, for the summary. So, like I said, thanks everyone who has joined us live now, and then for the people who will be watching it offline, do comment if you have any questions. Do get in touch with us so that we can interact. Let's form a community around this. And then it's very interesting. I think there are lots of varieties of things that we are doing in India. It's a huge populated country. Let's make use of the advantage of that population that gives the diversity, right? And then I think we have lots of different ways of thinking, taking solutions in place. I think we should interact and we should form a great community around this. I welcome everyone to join. Put your comments, give a thumbs up if you like, thumbs if you don't like. Any feedback is good for us. Thanks everyone. We are ending the live now.
Yes.
Thank you.